Everybody, welcome to another episode of Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 183. Well, today we're going to be delving into a clan mech, the Behemoth, aka Stone Rhino, or aka Behemoth, however you want to look at it. Originally it was in the book known as the Behemoth, and then they changed it to the Stone Rhino, whenever about years after the fact the book came out. Now, the Stone Rhino, always known as the Behemoth. Always, it's like, seems weird calling it a Stone Rhino, but I guess we have to just change some eventually, someday, some century. It is a 100-ton 353. So yes, it's a 100-ton mech with jump jets. And it has 10 double heat sinks, which is pretty good, per se. Comes in with 288 points of armor, which could be more. We could have up to 307 on this thing. Now, the interesting thing is it has a large pulse laser in right and left arm, and then it has a Gauss cannon in the right torso and left torso each, with 2 tons of ammo. And obviously, since it's clan, it comes with a case. And then we have a small pulse laser in the head with a jump jet in the right and left leg and center torso. Alright, when the Behemoth came on, aka Stone Rhino, hit the shelves, it was one of those ones you looked at and go, ooh, 100-ton clan mech. Must get them. So I picked up 2. It's one of those mechs that is really good from range 20. Even if you get into a little slightly farther out with the 2 Gauss rifles, this thing can dish out a pretty decent amount of damage. There have been times, you hit somebody with 50 points every turn, especially if you have a decent pilot in this thing. It can park itself in, let's say, just jump into a heavy wood hex and just sit there. It's like, hey, I get 2 mod just sitting here, and the best I can get is 2 mod. Unless I jump into something that's heavy woods, and I might get a 3 mod, but, or maybe a 4 mod for the first turn. But it's one of those ones that many times it's like you sit there and go, I don't need to move. I'm just gonna sit here until I have nothing to shoot at, and then I'll move from there. And it just with a lot of armor on this thing, it can stand there for a long period of time and just be a decent fire support mech. Or it can slowly advance towards the enemy and just start plugging away. It's a plugger. And start hitting targets. And most of the time, from my personal experience, it's typically the pulse lasers are going to hit. And 1 out of the 2 Gauss rifles are going to do some damage. Now, it's one of those things where if you fire everything and you don't move, you're going to pump out 22 heat, and this thing can dissipate 20. So it can do that for a couple turns, and then you got to look at it like, okay, typically you start heating this thing up, and then you got to, it's like, okay, I probably have to turn off a pulse laser, cool off drastically, and then start right back up again for 2 turns. It's one of those cycles that you go through with this, because obviously I personally like the small pulse laser. I would rather have had that as a heat sink. They got a ton of that wrapped up in that thing, and I, personally, the number of times I've ever used that small pulse laser is probably, let's count on number of 1 finger, maybe. I don't think I've ever used it, to be honest with you. So it's one of those things that it's like, it would have been better off. It's like, okay, we've got 1 ton. I'd rather have, just give me another heat sink so I don't have to worry about this whole cycle of, shutting stuff off, because in that case, if you had 22, you can fire everything and still move. And, you're going to heat up some, but at least, you're not having to worry about it. So otherwise, if you do, let's say you do run, you're going up 4 on the heat scale pretty darn quickly. So yeah, you rather have that extra ton is a heatsink. Now, the one interesting thing about this mech is that many times I've used it is that it's pretty slow. You know, it's a 353. It's on the same scale as the, like, say, the Daiashi. Except the Daiashi has, you know, the wonderful thing, it does have those XL engines on it. So you get a whole bunch of tonnage wrapped up in weaponry, you know. So you're looking at 50 tons of weapons versus, you know, this one's running around, what, 36, I think, 37 tons. So there is a big difference. You know, that 13 tons with a Daiashi makes a big difference felt on the battlefield, but except for the Prime. The Prime sucks, you know. But it is one of those ones that you slowly just move. If you really want to get this in close, you can just slowly plug away, just move, you know, 3 or 5, you know, fire everything, shut something off, fire everything, shut everything. You know, depending on your fire solution. You know, sometimes it's like, my firing solution is better if I'm just firing the pulse lasers and ignore shooting the Gauss rifles, because, you know, that extra heat may be not worth it. You know, it's like if I need 10s, 11s, or 12s versus 8s worth of pulse lasers, I'll probably just use the pulse lasers and maybe next turn park myself someplace decent, and then not having those moved modifiers. You know, that might make the difference between doing some good damage. So it is one of those mechs that I do like using. I've used it many times. You see them show up in conventions. You see them, heck, in our last campaign game we had, not the last campaign game, one of the last campaign games we had, where we had one of these was, I think it was the Smoke Jaguars that we're fighting with. We had one on our side, so it was like second line mechs were out there, you know, playing away, plugging away. So, and it got itself into an honor duel, and was of course sort of winning, and then those lowly free birth individuals that got out there and said, we're not care about your honor duel, so they just shot him to pieces. But overall, it's not a bad mech. Now, in the history of everything, let's see, the Stone Rhino, there are some different variants out there. Like, you got the Clan Goliath Scorpion. This one has the Stone Rhino 2. They upgraded it. Now this version has the extra light engine on board, so heck, now you got stuff, you're running in there the same category as the Daiashi with this thing. And it carries a pair of Gauss rifles. It does have 2 heavy large lasers, a heavy medium laser, and a heavy small laser. So it retains the also has an anti-missile system and an anti-personnel pods for anti-infantry, and it also has jump jets and more armor, and 16 double heat sinks to take care of that extra heat. So that's the interesting thing is, so they took the design and upgraded some of the weapons to heavies, and then they have double heat sinks. And you're looking at a little bit more battle value. So the original battle value, I think, is around 3,000. This one's coming in 3,100, I think, somewhere in there, just a little bit more. Then we got the Rhino 3, Stone Rhino 3. This one has 2 large pulse lasers in each arm and 2 ATM-9. So this basically, you remove the Gauss rifles, and now has large pulse lasers and has ATM-9s with 4 tons of ammo in the torso. It also has 2 ER micro lasers and in the rear arc, and then it has also has extra heat sinks to handle all that heat that it's creating. So basically, you're taking from the Gauss rifles and giving it large pulse lasers for your main firepower, and then you're swapping out for more heat sinks. Yeah, I think I might have used this one before. And then we got Stone Rhino 4. This is they say it's a test platform. This one has an XL engine in it. And it has 4 LRM-10s. And it has a pair of AC Ultra 10s. So basically, you get rid of the Gauss rifles for AC-10 Ultras. And then it has 4 ER medium lasers for up close and personal. And then it has 4 machine guns for anti-infantry. So if any infantry get into the way, this thing's going to mow them down pretty decently. And then we got the Stone Rhino 5. This one is got an XL engine, but it also has been bumped up to a 4.6 speed, so it goes from a 3.5 to a 4.6. It has 4 LBX-5 autocannons in the torso, backed by 6 ER medium lasers in the arms. So you no longer have the pulse lasers. You're a little faster, but you got the scatter shot LBX-5s. I'm not a big fan of LBX-5s, but typically you're going to do 3.3 1-point shots. So if you get all 4 of them hit, so that's a few. You're bound to get a few headshots or chance criticals in there somewhere with some snake eyes. That's basically looking at turning it into a anti-vehicle type configuration. Then we got the Stone Rhino 6. This has kind of an interesting one. Basically, it's ripped off most of the weapons off of it and replace it with 14 medium pulse lasers. So if you get this thing up close, yeah, they're going to know it. It's going to hurt. That's a lot of pulse lasers. And it has a single ER small laser. So, yeah, it's slow, but you don't have a long range weaponry that gets out there. That it goes from a base fire platform to a localized fire support system. That work great if you're in a city fight, but I'd rather have some couple at least a large pulse laser or something in the mix, or at least something to shoot out a little longer. Then we got Stone Rhino 7. This one replaces the Gauss rifles with a trio of ER large lasers, one mounted in each torso, and with the remaining space devoted to double heat sinks. So now you got a little bit more firepower at longer ranges, but you get the cost of the Gauss rifles and double heat sinks. So it's give or take. Shoot a little farther versus you're still in the 20s, versus with the Gauss rifles, but now you get an extra a little bit of damage. The damage output's the same. Then we got the Stone Rhino 8. This is produced by Hell Horses. Drops the jump jets for enhanced actuator system in each arm, for enhanced accuracy. So that's pretty much it when it comes to all the different versions. Most of the time, you're typically probably going to see the first two. You got the standard configuration of the Stone Rhino and version 2. That's typically what I've seen most of, probably 90%, 95% of the time. These other ones might show up eventually in the different versions, but not very often. But overall, I kind of prefer the original version, or one that I played with one time where they put ferrofibrous armor on it. See, this doesn't have endo or ferrofibers. Now, if you put ferrofibrous on it, it gives you enough, max outs the armor, and then gives you, I think they had, it was like 2 pulse laser. No, maybe it was a pulse. They replaced a small pulse laser with a medium pulse laser, and I think heat sinks or something like that. A little bit, it's just slight increase in firepower and with capability, I think it was. But other than that, that was pretty much it when it comes to the Stone Rhino, aka Behemoth. Overall, it's one of those mechs that kind of lays down a nice bit of firepower as it's moving forward, but it will have a hard time trying to catch up. You know, it's the same problem you have like when you're playing the Daishi. It's a 3.5. It's something that can be, unless you got some long-range weapons with it to reach across the battlefield, most mechs can outrun it, get into maneuver positions where it kind of negates its capabilities, you know, pretty quickly. But if you can get this into like someplace in the center of the board where you got some large open spaces where you can reach out and touch both flanks, where nobody can get by you without, you know, taking some shots, yeah, it works good. Sometimes it takes a while for it to get there. And my experience, a lot of times this mech will find itself outpaced and be looking for some place to deploy to trying to find a target. That's all I can say. So overall, not a bad mech, not great. It's one of those ones that's kind of iconic when it comes to this book. Hey, it's on the front cover of the 3055. You know, that was like first time I seen that cover, I was like, what is that? And I was like, dig through the book and go, hey, ooh, cool, 100-tonner with lots of cool toys on it. So, all right, hope you guys like this one. Like and subscribe, share with all your friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Hellcrex out.